Hi, everybody. It's Kimberly. I'm an eternal life student, which simply means human. At the end of the day, that really is the only title that we need. I think people are like walking books, a living library. We each have our own stories to share, and by sharing them together, we can grow stronger. Today, I have a guest here who's going to share their story. His name is Daniel Ness. Hi, Daniel. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you for asking.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to find out more about your story. Can you tell people a little bit about yourself?
From originally from Washington State, I moved to Tennessee because it's better here. Washington's getting pretty bad. I grew up uh, dirt poor and ignorant. Ignorant as a
Okay.
stump is a term I use because I had uh, no parental, um, no parental. Let's just call it that. I had a parent who wasn't there.
Okay.
And so in essence I basically raised myself. And when your education comes from a government school and television, you don't tend to be very smart.
Oh,
So smart but ignorant. I didn't know nothing. And so I spent starting at age 11 when I got a clue that happened. My mom was in a meeting. Were talking about Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. I
hmm.
read it. I was 11. I read it. I figured out, hey, there's more to life than this.
Right.
And I spent the next, well, since trying to
Wow.
figure out more to life.
All right. So I know that we were talking about the topic being overcoming ignorance, right? So this is the journey that we're going to take with you right now and find out how did you do it. Um, do you want to start off, let's see, high school radio?
Well, I'll start off with I overcame ignorance at the age of 35.
Okay.
I was doing radio in high school. It actually runs in my family, and after being a teacher's assistant in the radio program for a couple of years, when I graduated, I went to the local community college who had a radio station, and I ran that station for a couple of years. Actually, saved it through a period of funding cuts. It was this was
Wow.
back in the 70s and early 80s, and the state cut funding and the
Right.
school cut funding to the radio program, and so we had to self fund. Went out there, and that's when I learned about charities, running
Mhm.
charities, knocking on doors,
Yeah.
asking people for support, all that
Okay.
stuff. And I was sitting here going to school, and I said to myself, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. So
That
I'm going to go
happens.
join the Marine Corps and give myself 4 years to figure that out.
Oh,
And
okay.
uh, I joined the Marine Corps, learned, uh, it literally made a man out of me because I had no male, not only just influences, but role models or anything. There weren't men in my life.
Right.
And
Okay.
so when I got to boot camp, I'm starting to learn from other men
Oh, really?
how to be a man. In fact, what
Yes.
I think one of the most kind of eye-opening experiences I had was a guy telling me, you're supposed to use hot water when you shave.
Oh,
I mean,
wow. Yeah.
that's
It's
simple.
just those little things that
Yeah.
you don't realize, right?
I'm 21 years old, and I'm just now finding out that you use hot water to shave with. And
Yes.
so that's the kind of level of ignorance I came into it. And God gave me some talent, and I'm full of blind ambition.
Yes.
So raw talent and blind ambition got me through the Marine Corps. It got me through my early years working at Boeing. Um,
Hmm.
it, but I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't
Right.
know that I was ignorant as a stump. I I was reasonably successful, had a few career options that were really good, and but I didn't know. And then
Right.
in my quest to learn, I mean, uh, I'll start. I'll do a quick story at Boeing. When I was at Boeing,
Sure.
the first time I retired from Boeing, but I
Oh,
did
okay.
it in two halves.
Okay.
In the first half, um, I had a supervisor who says Boeing gives you tons of education opportunities. Take advantage of them. right?
Okay.
And it's a firm belief of mine is anytime you can get free education, take it.
Definitely.
And so they have a very extensive library system. I used to be able to actually walk to the local branch
Okay.
and cruise through the shelves for stuff. And I had a job where I to could listen to music, but I didn't. I listened to books. I
Oh, good.
listened
Smart.
to um, like Zig Ziglar stuff. You know
Okay.
what they call what is it? Success, whatever. No,
Mm-hmm.
I learned from people who had had success in their lives, various things, and in the process of that, when I was struggling to figure out what was wrong, what was I missing, and I was
Mm-hmm.
reading Deborah Tannen's book. You can read them all; they're great.
Yeah.
She's
Really.
a sociolinguistics professor, so
Mm.
her deal is language in use in society. She has a book about men and women talking at work. She has a book about women and their daughters, how women talk to each other. It's like one of the things they learned in one of her students' experiments was that boys make noise and girls talk.
Yeah.
Right. Well, what I
Right.
learned is she has this term she calls frames. Right.
Okay.
Everybody looks through the world in their frame. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the thing is everybody's worldview is different.
Yes.
So I was it was mostly until 20 years later the most painful experience I've ever had, because at that point, because I was asking myself, why don't I have any friends?
Okay.
And at that point, what Deborah taught me was that when I thought I was relating to people on their level, one to one,
Mhm. Right.
I did not know that I was not, and they will not tell you that you're not. So instead of being cutting up and doing what I thought everybody else was doing, I was
Mm-hmm.
just being interpreted as being a jerk. And
Right.
so people will do that, take that for so long, and then they'll just disappear. They won't tell you, hey, that was pretty offensive or whatever. They'll just go away.
Disappear. Yeah. You're
And
right.
so everybody in my life disappeared, and it was my fault. And so realizing that I hurt every single one of those people still hurts.
Of
And
course.
so it was at that point that I learned that I didn't know. And once I knew that I didn't know, then I was actually able to focus my growth from there.
Exactly. Like you said, you don't know what you don't know. But once you finally figured it out, then you had choices, right? Either leave it
I,
alone or learn, basically, right?
well, I was already in the learn mode. That's how I
Mm,
got there in the first place. I mean, my last couple of years in the Marine Corps, and from then on, uh, every free moment was either listening to, because I used to work at Microsoft, and that was sometimes an hour and a half drive to go 30 miles.
yes.
So as I call it, that's a lot of tape time.
Yeah,
And so you
definitely.
can go through, you catch up on the classics, find out why Moby Dick's a classic. That's a great book.
Right.
Learn from uh, all different sorts of great people. Jim Rohn is an excellent source. All
Hmm.
those guys, and I continued to add to that. And so, but the difference is now I was adding to a known base. I was
Yes.
increasing the size of the base instead of shifting the base as I went along,
See,
and and uh, that was the beginning of the change forever.
that's wonderful. And since then, now what's been going on now that you've learned this new way, and you started building on it, uh, now you have people, right?
Yeah.
Some
Well,
people back in the
my motivation at the time, well, I was trying to save a marriage that was unsavable, but I didn't know that, and
yeah,
so um, all of the marriage books,
right.
multiple counselors, right? So I'm
You
input here.
trying,
And I'm
yeah.
trying. And then my dad, who was, he's retired from Boeing too, he was working overseas in Indonesia or someplace like that where they have different copyright laws.
Okay.
And so he had this book.
Love Life for Every Married Couple. Okay.
He had this book printed and
Oh,
sent
wow.
out to people because, as far as I'm concerned, you got this is number
Hmm.
two behind the Bible on the subject. And that's
Wow.
because Ed Wheat, who wrote this, um, you love it because it's full of stories. It's
Yes.
story because he breaks. There's five kinds of love, and he breaks these stories down into how people are actually doing these things. And what I did in the process of trying to figure that out
Yeah.
was I notes, I condensed my notes. I condensed my notes to a point to where I could make affirmations from them.
That's lovely.
So, right, and then
Yeah.
as over the years, those got shorter because I knew what was behind them, which was a
Yes.
lot. And
Yes.
today, I call them the 44 rules, and they're only recently public. They've
Hmm.
been my rules for 4 decades,
Wow.
and so um, it allows me to take this book
Hmm.
and turn it into something somebody else can use. And
That's
so
great.
I'm constantly promoting the book because it's that important, changed my life significantly. And yeah, so
No, that
that's an example of me continuing to learn and then taking what I do learn and turning it into something else.
you're, they almost say that you're the best student when you become the teacher,
I can guarantee you that.
right?
Having been a teacher, if you want to learn a subject, try to teach
Exactly. Then you know whether you really know it or not.
it. Exactly.
So in this, I know you'd recently done a post about a bird, and I think it's a good example if you're willing to share it about uh the love and the rules and understanding people in a different perspective. Are you willing to
Um,
share that?
sure. If you're referring to my post of this morning or yesterday, whatever. So
Yes.
I, I we call this place Happiness Ridge because we're happy in this, and we're the Nesses, and we live on a
Yes.
ridge. Um, but it turned into an accidental birder situation. We're located between two bird sanctuaries on the migration path next to the
Oh, wow.
mountains and a river and everything. So 77 varieties so far, lots of birds. And you sit there. I didn't understand sitting on your porch until I moved to Tennessee either, right? Because you
See?
don't do that in Washington.
No.
And so I'm sitting here, and over and over and over, you're seeing the same things, and you learn from it. And so I says, hey, I should probably share what I'm learning with people, somebody else. So the focus of my bird posts is, what can you learn from this? How do you tell
Yes.
these birds apart? What do you need to know about that? And this morning I was talking about how Happiness Ridge is curated bird sanctuary. So I actually design, I design and build feeders too, but
Yes.
the the display of the feeders in the order they're in and all that stuff is planned, and it changes all the time.
Okay.
And everything is oriented to my chair.
Okay.
It is all
So that you can
situated.
you can turn and see whichever bird that you're looking for depending on the feeder.
No, the feeders are right in front of me.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
everything, I mean, when I say my chair is the focal point because I take pictures and stuff. So all the
Oh,
feeders
no.
you can see from my chair
Nice.
perfectly.
The
Once
bird
I've done
throne.
that, yeah, once I do that though, I go sit in my wife's chair and make sure that she can see too.
See.
And so I was thinking about that, and my wife's got one eye's completely blind, and the other one's got bad vision, so her
Oh,
vision is dim. And in the
right.
morning when I get up before her often, because I can't sleep. And
Right.
um, so I'll walk around in the dark and do things in the dark and quiet. And so I'm trying to understand or learn more about my wife. It's rule number 8 in the 44 rules.
Okay.
So I got her to give me a patch that
Okay.
covers the same eye of hers that's blind. So I have one eye, and
Mm-hmm.
that depth perception thing is pretty impressive.
Right.
I got one eye and it's dark, so I can see I'm trying to see what she sees. And I'm
Yes.
standing there in the kitchen waiting for my coffee to get done, and I'm looking out the window, and there are bird feeders right outside that window. Our porch is 40 feet long, so there
Okay.
are each section has feeders in it, and there's a section in front of her window that had feeder in it. And
Okay.
um, the focus of my look is usually the good feeders are where I can see better.
Yeah.
I can actually see there really well too, because it's also in front of where her chair is.
Okay.
And then I was sitting there and I was looking at it, and I had some so feeders in that area. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, my wife likes to wash dishes. We all
Yes.
got our thing, right? She
Yeah.
likes to wash dishes. So she's
Okay.
sitting here at the sink washing dishes, looking out the window, and I'm seeing, from my spot, they're all good. From her chair, they're all good. But I never once considered, what about the view she has from the inside of the house?
See?
And so I changed it because of that, and I will from now on.
See, and by doing that, you got to see it through her eyes in a way. You took that step to not just focus on how you see it, but how did she see it? And by doing that, you were able to like adjust things to help her, like to let her enjoy it. That's right. That's
Well,
amazing.
the purpose of looking through somebody else's eyes is, how can you help them? And
Yes.
rule number 8 in the 44 rules is to intimately know and understand your mate, right?
Yes.
And so sometimes that is, what does a one-eyed person with bad vision see through their window? And in my
Exactly.
case, it was an opportunity for me to combine birds and love, my two subjects.
Ah, though, it's beautiful. It's just a beautiful gesture and it's for love. So how can you beat that, right? Um,
Exactly.
yeah,
But if I can add to that,
sure.
my personal belief is that's the way we should be treating everybody.
Yes, exactly. And they say like I said before once, I said that's kind of like learning empathy, right? Trying to see how someone else feels. But you can't do that until you really try. Like you
Yeah,
said, if you know they have certain, like for me, I'm short. I'm only 5 feet. I'm a tiny person.
that's really
But
short. Give my
so
wife a
if
hard time for being
if
short.
I have a 6 foot person who goes food shopping and just easily takes it off the top shelf, like, here you go. They don't understand. To them, it's easy, right? But if
Yeah,
they went down on their knees and tried to grab it, they'd be like, oh, now I understand why you have to ask everybody
yeah,
to go get it for you.
yeah. Well, I
Right?
mean, it's you don't know.
Yes.
You don't. I mean, you see things like we were talking about before, the curse of knowledge, forgetting what you didn't know, right? And so if you don't know what's going through that head or what they're trying to do, you're seeing the world through your frame, and
Correct.
your frame says, I'm 6'1". I can
Mm-hmm.
reach everything on the top shelf. I don't know what your problem is, which
Exactly.
is the wrong answer.
Yeah.
But I mean, everybody's got their frame that they're looking at. And so to get from sympathy, where, oh, I really feel bad for you, to empathy, where I feel bad for you. I've been there.
Exactly.
I walked a mile in your shoes. That's empathy,
Yes.
right? That's like,
Exactly.
oh, your shoes are all wore out. That sucks. It's sympathy. But empathy
Yes.
is, I went out there and I walked in your shoes, and I wasn't so much trying to be empathetic to my wife. I was
You want
trying
to
to know
understand it. Yeah.
I'm trying to understand and know my wife, because you can't. Marriage is about oneness,
Hmm.
and anything that gets in the way of oneness is bad. And
Yes,
so, if you do not know your spouse, you cannot be one with your spouse because you can't be one with anything you don't know.
it's true, right?
So the
Yeah.
empathy is part of that. Though the it's that's how you become one. You become empathetic to their situation.
Yes. No, and it also it builds that connection, right? The necessary connection. Because if you don't have that connection, that's where it slowly starts to fall apart, right?
Correct. Well, I
Yes.
mean, it kind of goes back to that when I was 35 and I became intentional about
Yes.
how and what I was learning. Right.
Yes.
If your intention is one thing, and that if I ever say what was I talking about, because I got 16 squirrels going in my head, and I'm really bad about going down rabbit trails and forgetting
Hmm.
where I was. So it's I'm not crazy. I just can't remember. I'll make
Yes.
myself forget what I was going to say. I'll go, yeah, that was really good. Whatever it was, it was really
Yeah.
good.
No, I'm the same way. I'm always thinking so many different things same time. So I respect
Yeah.
that. But at the same token, if your wife knows that about you, she'll know how to be like, oh, we were just talking about this, right? So she'll bring you back.
Well, we were talking about that oneness and the transparency that is required in doing that. So I'm using empathy. I'm trying to understand a physical aspect of my wife's life, and that's because I'm choosing to do that. When we don't choose to do that, when we don't choose to be empathetic, we may think we're empathetic, but empathy is a choice. It is something you deliberately do, and it's a sacrifice. Love is sacrifice, as far as I'm concerned. It may be
Yeah,
something simple like put the toilet seat down,
yeah,
you know, or it can be something very significant that is really hard to do. But in all cases, it's some form of sacrifice. And so if you're not willing to give up that something to get
mhm,
closer to what you're after, you're doing it wrong
yes.
because you can't not sacrifice and have love at the same time because love is a verb.
Yeah, no, and it is about it's giving, serving, right? That's what it's about. It's not about, it isn't really give or
Exactly.
take. It's literally giving together, right? Working together,
Yeah.
growing
Well, I
together,
mean, and
building together.
the point of Ed's book, The Love Life,
Hmm.
is that you're not just living together, right? You're understanding what it is to be together, to be one, to be
Hmm.
together. So, like one of the storge is one of the words they use for it's one of the types of love, and it refers to kind of a comfortable old shoe kind of feel relationship. So what you
Okay.
have is they've been married for 60 years. They can finish each other's sentences.
Yeah.
I mean, they're always just there's perfect harmony and comfort and all that stuff, right? And it's love is I am going to provide for you a safe, comfortable place for you to be. And
Yeah,
then the objective of my objective is your betterment. What's best for you? And sometimes
exactly.
that means I got to sacrifice.
Yeah, I agree with that. No, definitely. And it's not just for a spouse, it's with, your family and everybody. And that way, anyone that you care about, you want the best for them, right? So you want to do the best that you can.
Well, we're instructed to
Maybe
love
not.
everybody, our neighbors, our friends, even
Yeah.
ourselves. Did you know
Yes.
that the phrase love your neighbor in the Bible is always finished by as yourself?
Yes. True.
It is multiple times in the Bible, but it's always love your neighbor as yourself. We forget the as yourself part.
Yes.
right? We're loving our neighbor. We're trying to, my whole point of the 44 rules was to actually know what it is to love somebody. How do I do this? Because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know. I never saw it before.
Right.
I didn't know what it looked like. And words, I love chicken.
Yeah.
It's not
It's
much of a
true.
word, but when you break it down, into the individual steps. Like one of them, and I wish I had a list of. I wish I had them here. The there's a whole there. It's you can basically break the 44 rules into three major sections and one section that's half of that. So we
Right.
got two halves that is one quarter, and then the rest are each a quarter. And the second and third quarters are all about how do you build somebody else up,
Yes.
right? So half of the rules are about what you could and should be doing to every single person in your life. The earlier rules, they're designed, it's written for couples, so it deals
Hmm.
with things that are couples related.
Right.
But all the other stuff, building people up, constantly encouraging, don't discourage, don't criticize, don't do, right?
Hmm.
And those are the things that we can do to everybody, and we should be doing it to
Yes.
everybody because
Definitely.
um, love conquers all. And I heard once that all we needed was love. Yeah,
Yes. True.
right.
There are many
All we need is
songs
love.
about these
All we need
subjects.
is love.
Right?
Yeah, yes.
But you know what? Truth is truth, right? It is what, it
Tis
is
that.
very true, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, and that goes back to my ignorance. Just because I didn't know didn't make it not true,
true. Yeah,
right? It
exactly.
is what it is. And the
It,
problem, and I was having this discussion earlier today with my wife. There are people that argue with reality and they get
yes.
upset when reality doesn't bend to what they think it should be,
Hmm.
right? Versus the people that realize it is what it is and they adapt themselves to the situation.
I think that's the
And
key
so,
word,
yeah,
adaptability.
well, in Marine Corps, they teach us that's how you improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Yeah,
So,
those are true
yeah.
words.
Well, I mean,
So,
it's you talk about the rest of my life after the first years because at Boeing, I also learned uh, continuous improvement stuff. So I've been a continuous improve. I'm hardwired for continuous improvement, and so I've spent decades working on that and all of facts and data. I was a
yes,
quality program manager at Boeing. Facts and data. I don't care what you think. Tell me
give me the facts,
what
right?
is it? What is the is? What
Yes.
it is
I
something.
like
What
that.
is that?
What
Tell
is
me
the
what that is.
is?
And then because if well, if you so the reason you do that, I supported the leaders in the business, and so they have to make decisions, and
Yes.
they're making decisions on it is what it is.
Yes.
If there's somebody comes in and maybe it's an environment where the guy shoots a messenger, right,
Right.
and doesn't tell him what it is, he tells him what he thinks he wants to hear, so he
Yeah.
makes a decision based on what he some guy thought he wanted to hear, and now that decision's bad because the information is bad.
Yeah.
And so
No,
that's kind of what I do for a living is I look at things and I make them better and I see how every day
that's very
constantly.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
You looking for the
44.
is?
Well, the is. This is
That-
the is.
that's a
Um,
good is if your is love and building each other up. That's a pretty good is.
well, I'll give you a example on what we were just talking about. My wife likes to wash dishes.
Yes.
I would prefer she spends more time with me, but she likes to wash dishes. So that's her thing. It is what it is. I
Yes.
can get upset about it, but it's not going to change the fact that it is what it
That's what she
is.
likes. Yeah.
That's what
She'll
she
spend
likes.
time after she washes the dishes.
Well, I mean, I'll try to sneak in there and do it for her
Yeah.
every once in a while. But she used to
Yeah.
run a restaurant, and so she's a
Okay.
great cook. I just she went and visited her mom for like 3 or 4 days once, and I almost starved to death because
Oh.
I forgot how to feed myself.
You see? Aw. Did you call her and you're like, what do I do?
I'm like, oh, there's some frozen burritos in the freezer. That's good. I can do that.
See, and that's the other part, realizing, wait a minute, you notice when they're not there,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
All the things that you didn't realize, all
yeah,
it wakes you up.
exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like in the birds. I did a post the other day. Just I went through and I looked at all the things I had posted about. One of the things I haven't posted about is Carolina chickadees.
Okay.
Carolina chickadees are here
Yeah.
every day. So to
Mhm.
me, they're just normal birds.
Yes.
And the things I posted about are like the red-headed woodpecker that's striking
Mm-hmm.
red and white and black, or
Right.
you know, the difference between the finches, purple finches and house finches and goldfinches.
Right.
But when you see it in one way, it's
Yeah, no, you almost soon take for granted things because it's always there, it's always present. When it's always present, you don't realize, wait a minute, this is something of value, you know,
mm-hmm.
uh, and and that's how sometimes life is. You have to take a step back and
Well,
remind yourself.
it it plays into how I have gone from ignorance.
Hmm.
So you're intentional.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
so and I love to do this when I'm driving, actually, is because I've traveled a lot and I've driven all over. And so the first time you drive through a place, right, you're looking at
Okay.
it from the perspective of somebody that's never been there. This is a whole new
Yes.
place, right? And so every once in a while, I just like to do that.
Hmm.
Look like I go, oh, I didn't know that was there. I've been driving this past this for 5 years, and being
Yes.
intentional about paying attention to what's around you, being intentional. It's like when I do my bird posts, it's usually about a topic, and it'll
Yes.
be something that fired me up, and so then I'm intentionally looking for that one thing in a bird. Maybe it's the shape of the tail, right?
Right.
So I'm
Right.
intentionally looking for pictures of just the shapes of the tails as opposed
Hmm.
to something else. And
Hmm.
if you let life go by, just go by and never pay
Yeah.
attention to it, you're going to miss so much.
Definitely. Oh my goodness, there's so much out there to learn, to observe, to be a part of. Yeah. And that's just it. A lot of people are so busy working. They're forgetting there's a life out there as well, right?
Yes, yes. And I feel sorry for the people who started or are in positions where I started and didn't have something to help them get out of it. And that
Yes.
goes back to love, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to be empathetic to your situation and go, and this is what motivates me more than anything else. I know what ignorance is, so I'm duty bound, I'll say,
Yes.
internally. I'm duty bound to share what I learned.
Exactly.
And I've been doing that for 50 plus years,
And
and so if you're not, you never know. It's like in class.
hmm
I'd always be the one to speak up because I knew there was 3 or 4 other people with the exact same question, but they weren't going to speak up,
hmm
so hey, I'll be the fool if it helps everybody else win.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that's just it. Like you have so much to teach and you can show people and you've lived through all these things. So now you're willing to say, "Hey, listen, I'll help you. I can show you." Right? You can
Yeah.
guide them because you've been there, right?
Uh, or we were talking about learning, painful learning experiences, right? Hey,
Yes.
let me give you a tip.
Don't
Don't do
do
that.
this. Yeah. You might need another list of the don't do.
Yeah.
But
One of
yeah, no,
my favorite things is you can live your life by 3 words,
yes.
and there's a lot of them. Suck it up, walk it off. I love it, and so if you go back and you look at all the things, the important, I mean, really, if you think about it, being intentional, right? The
Hmm.
important things in your life, the things that you've learned, almost all of them can be summed up in 3 words. I think
And
that's
they
just
are.
amazing.
And those words are,
It depends.
yeah.
You know, I have, I'm an old guy that does physical things, so I have parts that hurt.
Yes.
So I have a double dose of suck it up here and a little bit of walk it off that I take. And, but I love you is 3 words,
True.
you know,
True. Right?
please
Uh,
forgive me.
That's another good. Yeah, these are
And,
good
and
ones.
so if you go and you think about it, yeah, life, there's very important things to learn, but they're really simple.
Yes.
And if you're intentional about learning those, if you're focused, I mean, I in, intentionally ignorant is one of the things I don't mind being ignorant. I've been
Right.
ignorant. I have no problem with it. I'll help you out of it. But if you're intentionally ignorant, if you choose not to learn, not to learn,
Then
that
that's on you,
that's
right?
well, I mean, it's yeah, and it's like why everybody should be wanting to learn what they don't know. And unfortunately, we've taught people to believe that they know everything. Yeah, the youngins
Yes.
these days, they know
Oh,
everything. I
yes.
like to call it arrogantly ignorant because
Yeah.
not only are they ignorant, but they're real firm
They,
about their
yes, they are. They know
ignorance.
everything.
That's right.
Oh my goodness. The things I hear sometimes, it does make me laugh and smile,
Yeah.
because they haven't even done any of it and they're like, I know it. Right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I got one of those the other day. Okay, boomer.
so we're going to be ending the podcast soon, and I wanted to just kind of review some of the things that we talked about that are very important, I think. I know one of the most important things is you had said that you started out ignorant, right? But now you've grown and you've learned. And you've learned so much, you now have created these 44 rules to share with people. True?
True, true. To be fair, I
Hmm.
didn't create the rules. I just discovered them. Ed Wheat discovered the rules, but he tells the rules as a story. So I had
Okay.
to pull out of those stories what those specific acts were because the 44 rules are specific acts that you do or don't do that are
Hmm.
loving.
Yes. And with that, you've been using them for a while now, right?
Since I started writing them 35 years ago.
So you know a little something about it, I would say, right?
Yeah, let's just say it's stuck in here. It
It's
comes
in
out pretty
there,
easy.
right? So what I would want to do is, I know we're going to have more podcasts to talk about other parts of your life. There's so much more that people don't realize that you have to offer and share, in the business sense, in the life in general sense, in the love thy neighbor sense, if you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
Um, And so those were things we'll touch on later. But I do know that you do have the 44 rules that we can put in the comments so people who are interested to learn more about them, if they have any questions about specific ones, maybe examples that you can, help them to understand it in their way. They can see it there. They can see it on LinkedIn, where you also are available if people want to reach out. Um, and I know that birds are a very important part of your life, correct?
They are. They've
Yes,
become
in
an
many
important part.
ways.
Yes.
Yes, in many ways. So much so that you actually you build houses, correct?
Feeders.
Oh, excuse me, bird feeders.
Well, there's a reason. A house holds one family. A feeder
Okay.
lets a lot of birds eat.
See,
So
you
I get
just
more
taught me
birds.
something. No, you just taught me something. I wouldn't know that. So, and that's something that they can see at the Hammerhead Custom Solution. Is there a website address if they were interested just to look at it?
That's it. Hammerheadcustomsolutions.com.
All one word?
Yep, all one word. They won't let you do separate words, and I tried to shorten it, but you know how it is. They don't let you do
Of
that either.
That's all right. And you
Yeah,
don't just do bird feeders. You do some other things as well, correct?
yes, I make gifts, and
Nice.
feeders are uh, most of the feeders I sell are actually for somebody else. Somebody buys them as a gift to somebody else. And
Okay.
so I make turned items. I make everyday items out of very fancy woods. So if you go to the website today, it's being revamped, but
Hmm.
it starts out with all the woods I play with, and I play with a lot of woods.
Yeah.
Over 30 different varieties. And
Nice.
so I have a great supplier. I go in there, it's like a candy store, and I says, "That's cool. What can I make out of it?"
Very nice. So, we will talk more even about that subject and how you even got into that, right? As hobby to business and from birds to creativity. But that will be something for a little later because it's connected into your business life as well. From where you started from there and then you grew into the other part. So that will be a future podcast for people to look forward to. And I again wanted to say thank you so much for sharing your story with us. There's a lot that you are going to leave behind to teach people. And I hope that they hear your messages and definitely read the 44 rules. There's a lot to learn from it. That will be another podcast to go over that,
Yeah.
to understand it and practice it. And I'm sure you have plenty of examples for that after 35 years of studying it. True? So, again, thank you so much for joining us. And it was really nice to meet you today.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share a little bit of my story.